Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next The Promised Neverland manga review. This one's going to be for chapter 165, and this was a very good chapter. This was the chapter that we really needed to get us back on track. The last two I thought were fine, but definitely not exactly what I think we needed. Obviously the scheduling of things with the two break weeks over the last few chapters didn't help, but this is definitely much more like what we want, and they seem to, at the end of this chapter, be getting us right back into, I suppose, what we wanted to get straight into when it happened at the time. But yeah, so we jump in straight away here, page 1 with Isabella. We are getting Isabella flashbacks explaining what happened to her after the escape. And this is the benefit of this chapter, and just the reintroduction of Isabella into the series, is that she is one of the more intriguing characters because we really got a chance to know her over the course of that first arc. And we wondered, when is she going to be reintroduced into the story? And I like what they do here, because last we saw her when she was reintroduced, we just found out, oh, Grandma Isabella, she seems to be working with the demons again. How did that happen? I think nearly everyone thought that she'd be reintroduced in a sort of sympathetic way, that she'd find some way to just appear out of nowhere and help Emma, Ray, and Norman and so on, but that doesn't seem to be the case. But there's still the potential for her to turn things around and really, show her loyalty to the kid, because the first page is very interesting in that we get, okay, January 15th, 2046. 15 children, including 2 highest grades, escaped from Gracefield Farm. 2 days after the escape, January 17th, 2046, we see Isabella in kind of a jail cell, just thinking about things, her situation. I guess I've had enough. I take full responsibility, is what she says to one of the demons, and she's pretty much accepted that she's probably going to be killed, executed, or served up as food at the very least for this. And she just says, this is fine, now I can finally, as she trails off, Emma, Ray, everyone, and Leslie, and we cut to a surprise reveal here. But the idea here is that the rest of the chapter leads you to believe that what she was about to say here is that now I can finally be free, that in her death she can sort of accept what she did to allow the others that chance at freedom, and that in dying she'll be free herself, without actually, I suppose, knowing what true freedom in this world actually is. So when they come to talk to her, they just say, 73584, starting tomorrow you will be appointed to the role of Grandma. And of course she's shocked at this, because she thought she was just immediately going to be shipped out as food. So she's like, why? I couldn't protect the merchandise, and I caused Plan 3 to be burnt down. And they just say, Grandma Sarah was responsible for everything. You couldn't control the merchandise, but she's the one who couldn't control you. Grandma Sarah was shipped. She will be served at the next Tafari in place of the merchandise you lost. So it is this interesting one of they give her this amazing opportunity, but they sort of blame the death of kind of Sarah basically on her actions as another way to sort of control her, of yeah, you led to this other person being killed, your actions have led to her. But as we find out in the coming page, it's because they value her more than Sarah. So again, she's sitting in the jail cell thinking about things I'm going to become Grandma. It's just, how did I get to this point? And she just has this vision of what she usually sees when she thinks of a grandma, just this one person standing basically on the corpses of all the kids. That's where she is at this point, that she's really thinking about just the position that she's in. And it really makes you think about the whole backstory that we got on, just that idea of when they are offered that role of mom, that they are specifically chosen, the best girls are chosen to potentially become moms. And this decision of basically get eaten by the demons or help with the structure that allows other kids to be eaten, and we saw her accept that role just with her survival in mind. And it's they've definitely explored reasonably well just that decision and how they feel about it, of just that kind of the sense of betrayal in a way, that she's over the years of doing this, obviously lost sight of just this is the way it is, but with what happened with Emma and everyone escaping, she's thinking about this some more, and now she's being put in an even higher position, and she's just not in the right sort of mindset right now to kind of take on this role again. Like, this is a very kind of different Isabella than we're kind of used to here. Up until Peter Rattray comes in to speak to her. In short, they calculated whether it was you or Sarah who'd be more beneficial to the farm's future. You are, and this is like Isabella being like, oh, you, like, she's shocked to see this person in front of her. No one's had the breeding results you've had. The decision was obvious. I agree with the farm's decision to keep you, and this is a very interesting turn here. He can see from the way that she's acting. He knows exactly what she is thinking. The first page, it's as if he read it too. He knows that she, in her mind, is thinking and says it as much to her. Are you wavering? You must be thinking, I finally thought I could get out. I thought I could be free. I've had enough. At this rate, I'll return to the hell I was in. I don't want to become grandma. And she just has these kind of flashbacks. And he just says, it's too bad. I wish you would have been on our side, because you were born in this world as a child to become food. Even someone with your talent will end up being their feed. And then interesting, on the next page, like, Isabella's reaction is specifically to this world. Like, what it says is this world, like ... question mark. And he just continues, have you really had enough? You don't know everything yet. You haven't obtained the future you wanted. Aren't you curious why there are humans who are eaten and humans who are not? Don't you want to get out for real this time from this hell, from your destiny? You're just tired of how death is all around you. That's why you're trying to exit the stage. To kill yourself to end this, but death won't save you. By no means is it the path to freedom. And she's completely sort of entranced in a way by what he's saying. I'll give you true salvation. I'll get you out of here if you take my hand. And he just continues over this sort of flashback sequence as we see she does take his hand, and we see, him say, and use your brain for our sake, to benefit us. I'll take away your number and the chip in your chest and give you true freedom, as we cut from the flashbacks into basically, present day, more or less, and more or less sort of Peter Rattray and kind of Grandma Isabella here as kind of basically equals, just sitting apart from each other, discussing their plans, because it makes sense in that, like, at this point, with the Queen gone and so on, the humans are obviously in control. Peter Rattray's the main guy, so of course, like, someone in the grandma position is also going to be a very high up in this side of things. He's basically offering her this idea of, like, you were saved and learned a certain amount of how this world worked by becoming a mom. Now you'll learn everything by becoming a grandma, and you'll find the true path to freedom by, joining me here. Just really interesting one, because it's, but before we get into, I suppose, the present day stuff too, just discussing this flashback for Isabella, it's one of those situations where, like, you can't really blame her, because it all comes from just this perspective of, like, she doesn't want to just waste her life. She wants to survive, and she's already made that decision to go from being just one of the cattle children to becoming a mom. And what Peter Rattray says does turn her around and makes her accept this role as grandma. And it's going to be about now how she reacts to, I suppose, seeing, I suppose, mainly Emma, Norman, and especially Ray again. And what snaps her out of this, or is she just acting here to a degree? Because I think everyone is expecting that she's not just going to be this villain character that our hero characters will have to overcome. We're expecting her to twist things around and ultimately help the kids in some way. So how is that going to come about? So let's get into what the present dynamic is like with Isabella here. So Peter Rattray goes on and says, Grace Field has had impressive breeding results and an excellent harvest again this year, and thank you for the cooperation with Lambda. And she just says, you're welcome, it's too bad about Lambda. And he just says the essential data still remains. There is no problem, even though the facility was destroyed. The Queen has passed away, and so have the lords and ladies of the 5 regent houses. With the elimination of the aristocracy, they will change. From now on, it will be the era of Lambda. He says Lambda will come back. We will abolish the old high-cost, high-risk production line and eventually unify all of the farms in the new style of the Lambda farms. And she just notes, you're going to discontinue the current top-class farms, including Grace Field. Exactly. So this is an interesting one in that, like, okay, here's part of Peter Rattray's plan. He now in control of the demon world. He doesn't want to wipe out all of the demons. He understands that he sort of controls this kind of production side of things. And what he's going to do here is basically get rid of basically anywhere that produces, top class food effectively. And it seems like he's going to resort it all into sort of the mass production kind of like, genetically modified kind of kids that we saw in those Lambda facilities and so on. That's all he cares about. He just wants basically low cost, super efficient. He doesn't want there to be any risks of basically the children being too intelligent that they'll have escapees again. That was ultimately the one weakness of what happened, is that one of those farms was so good at making high quality food that they were such intelligent kids, they caused as much chaos as they have and will cause going forward. So that's an interesting point. I wonder will they get more in depth into it about his thoughts on demons going forward and what he's trying to accomplish with that and so on. So it says here, when we achieve that, you will be free, Grandma Isabella. By the way, how is the shipping preparation of the children going? All will be ready soon. And Peter Rattray just laughs and says, then please finish plucking all of them by dawn. They'll arrive soon, probably by tonight or tomorrow night. I want to be done with the majority of matters by then. The current and remaining escapees by the day after tomorrow, all of them will be in jars. So he just wants to get things done straight away. And he's hoping to get everything done within the next day or two. I suppose it's to a degree putting a timeline on things now with what happens here. He just says, can you handle that? And Isabella puts a smile on and says, understood, sir, as she walks into the room where all of our sort of kidnapped escapees are. And we see Anna here crying, and she apologizes about Nat, everyone. So I'm guessing that means she revealed the details to Peter Rattray based on the fact that she's crying and is apologizing. That she truthfully said to Peter Rattray what he asked, and he accepted it, and so no one else got hurt, just Nat with his fingers and so on. But anyway, Isabella has walked in. They're all like, Mom? She comes down, hugs 2 of them, and is like, welcome back, my adorable children. And yeah, they're all kind of crying, and they're like, please let us treat Nat's fingers, please. And she's like, oh, how horrible, you poor thing. And she does sort of, fix his finger in that, it's obviously pointing up completely in the wrong direction. But the way she does it is by basically just snapping it back in the reverse direction, pretty bluntly and without much care. So it's definitely getting across a level of kind of cruelty that we maybe weren't quite expecting from her. But she just says, okay, they're back to normal. Should be good enough to serve nicely without it being an issue. Now we're going to start disposing of you all in order. Choose the first 10. I assume she's saying this to the guys behind her, potentially. But anyway, they're like, what, dispose? And they're like, it's over this time for sure, Emma, Ray. So the rest of them are just kind of ready to die, basically, at this point. They don't see much hope in what's going on. Then there's a big sound effect here, crack, and everyone's like, what was that? And this is when everyone is on alert, because Emma, Ray, and Norman have, I suppose, entered the facility here. They've come up through the sewers, and everyone can, I suppose, hear the sounds of this kind of movement that's happening. So we're getting right up to the actual confrontation about to happen. Interestingly, we see that Emma, Ray, and Norman all have guns on them, so this is going to be a really big battle that's about to happen. So, really good chapter just in terms of character-wise, and Isabella, one of our best characters that we have, going that little bit more in depth. Seeing Peter Rattray sort of manipulate Isabella to get her back on side was very interesting by basically, just highlighting her vulnerabilities, using them to his advantage, knowing that, she wants freedom, and, how do I talk her away from wanting freedom by death to wanting freedom in a good way, and that's by actually offering her, actual freedom. So that's an interesting approach. That's what's going to be so interesting with Isabella going forward, and to see, I suppose, how Peter Rattray is as well going forward. But yeah, it seems like she is loyal to him, that it's going to have to be some big twist to turn her around on things. I like the sort of tease at the end here of like, oh yeah, we're going to start disposing of you now, getting you prepared to be served right now. And that's the time scale on things. If this attack doesn't work out quickly, everyone is going to be killed. So it definitely feels like we're in the end game now. Like, you still have these really long kind of forged plots that we're still waiting to be resolved with regards to the promise. What did Emma ask for? What's the reward that the one wants in return for it? When will that be activated? What are the conditions? We still have the whole Sanju Mujika thing that they set up from the last 2 chapters, and all that sort of stuff. There's even like if you really want to go for it, like a Luvis, his body disappeared all of a sudden. Is he out there? Is he going to appear in some way? What's the situation? But definitely a chapter that I felt really got us back on track. Huge improvement just by, like focusing on the human characters. That the demons are a cool aspect of this series, but it really is the human characters who are the highlights. That the demons work with regards to sort of the lore aspect of the series, but they've sort of struggled when it really comes to, I think, really making the demons the be all end all of the series. So it's nice that we are sort of overall very human focused as we approach the end here. But yeah, that's my thoughts on chapter 165. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are, but that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.